Hello friends, welcome to Akulmach Science Show. Today is December 30th. It's the last working day of the year 2022. And today in this episode, which is the last episode of the year, we want to discuss about the settlement on Mars. We have been trying for settlement and there has been a lot of exploratory probes which are going around and trying to identify which is the best place for humans to land, etc. And where are the resources available? I think that research has been going on for some time, but believe it or not, Mars is a large place, and few probes that we have sent, we can count them on the fingertips, are not sufficient to basically make a complete geological map of the planet. And when we land there, we should know exactly where are the resources, where we should be settling down, where is the place for building our habitat, etc. And because of this requirement, the new theory that has come out is basically to use some sort of autonomous rovers, basically to roam around the planet Mars. And we would not need such high-tech rovers that we have right now. And sort of, these high-tech rovers are sort of heroes, and but we would need a smaller, swifter, and less power consuming rovers, and many of them. And when we actually have many rovers exploring every nook and corner of the planet, we would need some sort of a technology or a thought wave to create these rovers and also report back. So the biggest challenge is how do we control these rovers even if we manage to send them on the surface of Mars. And that is where the constellation of satellite comes in, where the low cost several satellites around the orbit in Mars can establish a communication network between these smaller rovers which are roaming around on the surface of Mars, and then beam back whatever they find. These rovers can be equipped with some sort of cameras and also other analytical tools available on the on board, so that they can carry out certain analysis, at least carry out the geological survey of the planet, so that the geologists know exactly which part of Mars has what kind of resources and what is the terrain. So once we start building that kind of information, we would actually get a lot of this information and we can actually start maintaining database. But the biggest challenge is how do we take these rovers, and what it takes to create these rovers. I think a plan is required. Even if most of the scientists and mankind believe in this idea, the important thing is to basically make a plan, make sure that we start building these low cost, smaller rovers, and they can survive the re-entry on Mars, and they can be autonomous at the same time. So I think all of this low cost autonomous are very, very powerful words when we think about this particular project. Because even if we manage to send humans, then humans will have to do the same study, and they will have to work very hard, and probably human require more life support, etc. And they will not be able to cover, they will not be able to efficient, will not be so efficient, just like these autonomous rovers which can roam around in every valley, every mountain, every riverbed. And therefore the idea is to basically start planning these rovers which will be autonomous, low cost, and have basic machinery on board, things like camera or infrared camera, so that they can be operating during the night also, and certain analytical tools so that they can do little bit of analysis while they are exploring. And when they die, they just simply die, because there are so many of such rovers which will keep exploring different parts of the planet and start beaming back information and photograph back to the satellite constellation which is in the orbit. And navigation of Mars is not so easy. We have only five or six of these different rovers and exploring only very limited area on the surface of the Mars. It's not easy. It's a very, very hostile planet with the terrain not conducive for long-term human settlement at this point in time. So, if we have more geological information, we know exactly what element is lying where, then it'll help the future human settlers to basically build their colonies or a bunch of colonies on the surface of Mars, so that they can actually have different kinds of skills available in different colonies, so they can scatter themselves and do different activities in different parts of the planet, and as a society they will be able to make a viable permanent settlement, and that is what is most important. And when we are talking about this kind of existence on the surface of Mars, we would need a lot of this information. So I think it is a very good idea to start building these low cost rovers, start sending them across the planet and let the rovers explore in an autonomous manner and beam back all the information to the satellite constellation. Now when we talk about this, the satellite constellation as well as the network of rover which are exploring the surface of Mars would require a tailor-made AI engine or a AI program, which will then control all of these rovers and ensure that the information which is coming from these rovers are beamed back and updated into the right database back on Earth. And back on Earth, you would need an analytical tool to basically analyze all this data, so that when human look at it, they will actually exactly look where what material is lying on the surface of Mars. So I think it's high time to start building this kind of database even before planning a manned mission to Mars. And I think this is a prerequisite, in my opinion, if we want to colonize Mars, simply because if we have more information about the new colony which in future humans would want to set up or aim to set up, then it will help the future settlers to plan their activities in a much more organized manner. And to build the satellite network and the rover, I think we have already tested the small satellites. Today's technology or the current technology, you can make things in a more miniaturized manner, and can also pack a punch, so that in small package you can have much more equipment for communication and for or different kinds of mechanisms. So you can have one or two rockets or space vehicles will be able to send the entire constellation to the Mars. And once these small satellites are in orbit, you can actually plan which satellite will go where, etc. And because Earth is a very large planet, and if you compare Mars, it's almost half the size, so you would not need so many, even these small satellites which are much more powerful, smaller, and will have long life, but you will still need a fewer satellites to cover the entire planet. And I think this can be done in one or two launches of the space vehicles carrying these satellites, and maybe a couple of more launches to drop the rovers on the surface. So once we are able to do all this, build a huge network of surveying mechanisms on the surface of the Mars, and also communication mechanism in the orbit, then humanity will be in a better position to make future Martian travelers or Martian settlers to have a successful permanent existence on the surface of the Mars. And this kind of study will also help us to map out other future projects. Probably once we have a model around this, we will be able to create a much more robust model in the future if we want to now settle beyond Mars into Titan or Europa and any of those different bodies much beyond the orbit of the Mars. So friends, I think this is what I feel. If you want to settle on Mars, first we need to collect the geological data, and I think the best way to do it is to create these small rovers. If you agree with this, or if you have any comments or suggestion, feel free to send in your comments, and I will catch you next year on 2nd January. Until then, as always, thanks for watching. Have a blast on the new year, and I will catch you in the year 2023. Bye bye.